لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله ما لنا رب سوى لا إله إلا الله.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين. Allama Tabatabai Rahmatullah Alayhi has a philosophical discussion here about the miracles. As you know, there have been many cases in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed his miraculous power to the Israelites. So here Allah mentions 12 different things that Allah did for the Israelites. For example, the fact that the sea was divided into two parts, and then a passage was made available for them to cross, and then the army of Pharaoh drowned, or revival of the dead, coming of water from the rock. So there are 12 different miracles that has happened. One discussion was about miracles in general that we had in the past, how to define miracles, and whether they conflict with the principle of causality. This is what we discussed before. But what Allama wants to discuss here is whether miracles contradict, or these miracles or some of them contradict another principle in philosophy. In philosophy, they say that when something is in the state of potentiality and then becomes actual, to go back to potentiality is not possible, because it has reached a higher level, and then going backward is not possible. So to be more perfect and then becoming again less perfect is not possible. So how is it possible that something reaches a higher level, like separation or departure of the soul from body, and then again it comes back to the body and the person can have life? Like the person who was killed, and to understand who was the murderer, they had to use part of the body of the cow, and Allah gave life back to that person. So this is a new issue in addition to the issues that we had before about miracles. Allama says that return of something which was potential and then became actual to the state of potentiality is impossible. And he says this is something beyond doubt. But a person or animal which was alive and then died, again goes back to dunya, he says this is not one of the instances of that rule. So it's not contradicting that rule, because it's not going back to the previous state of potentiality. And then he explains how this is different here.
Like every actuality as well has some potentiality.
Potentiality for something higher, not going back to the potentiality which was lower. Yes. Sorry, what did you find?
I rephrase, or let's say summarize argument that Allah Ta'ala the way over
Here,
yes.
okay.
And
So it is not more than 1.5 by.
no, it's not just in this verse that he is
Ah.
about the revival of the deceased people. In several cases, Allah Ta'ala speaks about this.
Okay. Bismillah. But can you explain it from outside instead of reading?
Yes. We have a problem here, especially in revival of the deceased people. Okay, and Allah Ta'ala talked about it in several places, especially about Raj'ah of imams and other people. It happened. He says, according to substantial movement that we have in the world, there are some potentialities that are being changed into potential actuality. So this we have a rational proposition here which says that the retrograde, what was the word? No, it means retrograde movement is utterly impossible because coming back from actuality to potentiality is impossible. This is the meaning of it. Allah Ta'ala says this coming back to life cannot be considered as one of the examples of this rule. He says for those people who have had a sudden death, for example, for murderers or for any other people who, for example, suddenly died, not in a normal way of, for example, dying. He said, for example, he had an accident. He said he didn't have time, okay, to fulfill all his potentiality and to change them into actuality. So when he leaves this world, this is possible for his soul, okay, to, in some situation, very special, particular situation, to come back again to the world, okay, and attach to a body, okay, to finish his movement, this particular movement that he was supposed to finish it. No, it's not, and there was a world of difference between this fact and the reincarnation that we, I think, we didn't reach. That was.
So this is about one type of death. You said about the sudden death.
Yes.
So what about the natural death?
About natural, the instances that Allah Ta'ala mentions, as far as I know, were about sudden death or about murder. I don't know.
So can you say Raj'a is only for those who died suddenly?
According to traditions that we have, yes.
No.
Not suddenly, no. According to that we have many traditions that murderers will for sure have Raj'a, but
it's not only for them.
No.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes.
For example, according to the argument, can we claim the eternity of everything because everything which has life, the kind of life here in the world, according to this argument, cannot be dead because it's going back in the level of life. So everything, every animal we have, every matter we have, should have eternity. Is it possible to say that it should have eternity?
No, it doesn't go back to the same situation, but maybe it can die, but death is a higher situation.
How, for example, for an animal would die.
So for example, an animal which has reached the level of maturity doesn't become again a baby animal, but can become older and older and die.
Yes, but for sure.
But again, we will explain. This is about the body, not about the soul. Soul is eternal.
So the soul of the animal should be eternal.
Yeah.
What happened for them after
They have also some kind of resurrection.
resurrection?
وَإِذَا الْوُحُوشُ حُشِرَتْ.
No, after Hajj, they go to the hell.
The day of
heaven.
judgment.
No, that is another issue. Maybe they have a kind of life, not necessarily in hell or heaven. They can have their life.
And what about matter? Then we have.
We need zoo there as well, you know. Yes.
What about the matter? For example, the stones and so on.
Yeah.
They have also kind of life. That the one that comes in.
No, that's life. That life is different. That life exists in all different types of beings. It's different from.
But also this kind of life is improved.
Yeah. Let me say what Allama says, and then I say what is my understanding. Okay. Allama says that we don't question that principle from philosophy. Okay? So he just tries to show that this is not an exception or contradiction to that principle. He says, ما ذكره من استحالة رجوع ما بالقوة بعد خروجه إلى الفعل إلى القوة ثانيا حق لا ريب فيه. So he doesn't want to question this or discuss it further. He says this is something true and we have no doubt about it. Yeah. Not self-evident, but proved in philosophy. So in his own understanding of philosophy, this is something acceptable. We will talk about it inshallah later. But لكن عود الميت إلى حياته الدنيا ثانيا, when something is dead and goes back again to the material physical life, or the issue of reincarnation is not contradicting. It's not a case of going back to the potentiality. لَيْسَ مِن مَصَادِقِهِ. Okay? Then he explains. He says, when a plant, when we have a plant, a vegetative substance, Johar Nabati, when it starts progressing and gets the form of an animal, okay, then it has a kind of immaterial form. Even an animal has a material form. That he says, مجردة بالتجرد البرزخي. So animal is not only material. An animal has immaterial soul. And the reason is that an animal can understand, has knowledge. And you know, all different types of knowledge, according to Mullah Sadra, is immaterial. It's not only intellectual knowledge. So, this animal gradually can reach the level of, for example, becoming then later, for example, a human being. So it can go through different stages. If that human being again becomes an animal, or if, for example, an animal becomes a plant, because you know we have fasq, mask, rask, you know there are different types. So it never becomes the same thing that it used to be. A human being that has become a monkey or an ape is not just a monkey which is lower than a human being. Suppose, for example, if we accept the theory of evolution and we say monkeys or some of them became human beings, for example, or we don't accept that, But we say that human beings have gone further in perfection than monkeys. Okay? So when a human being becomes a monkey and Allah transforms them to a monkey or ape, it's different from a normal monkey. This is a monkey which is a human being.
Higher than the natural monkey.
Yeah. So in some aspects, it has more perfection than monkeys. Not morally. Morally, we say this is worse than a monkey. Yeah, because monkey didn't have responsibility, understanding, free will. This is a human being had understanding, responsibility, and as a punishment is made into monkey. So from moral point of view, spiritual point of view, balhum adal. But from some aspects, they are more perfect, more, for example, more intelligent. Okay? So it's not going back to the state of being an animal exactly. It's just a human being that from some aspects has become like animal. You never make a human being again an animal which is only animal. When something has reached that level of perfection, that has received responsibility, understanding, can choose between good and bad, that never goes back to the state of an animal or a plant. Do you understand?
Monkeys, these shapes, but they are suffering from the shapes. They aren't with this shape of monkey or apes, yes?
I'm not sure.
They don't suffer from this shape of monkey, those people.
Why you think they suffer?
So it was a punishment. If they don't know that, they don't suffer, it's not a punishment.
No, because when they are made into that category, so you think they suffer? You think they still want to become human, or they were monkeys already?
They want to be human. That those people who became a monkey.
I understand what you say, but I cannot prove what you say. For example, if a person always acts like children and wants to behave like children, so if you make him a child, it doesn't mean necessarily he finds it difficult. He maybe finds it easier.
He says, or else, how can it be a sort of punishment for those people?
Only prove this is a punishment. They should suffer with this punishment. How they suffer?
Because they are losing humanity. They are treated by others like animals.
They lose something. If they don't know, they don't pay attention to this.
Yes, they
They don't suffer as a punishment.
Maybe as a sample
They
to
would
other
be
people.
yeah,
They understand, I think. Don't they understand to be converted to animals?
they understand that they're animal. No, the question is, do they hate, for example, being an animal?
They know the previous position, previous shape.
Maybe. I accept, I understand what you said, but I'm saying maybe we need some more concrete arguments.
So we should justify the punishment for them. How
No, it's a punishment, definitely, whether they understand or not. Because sometimes people are punished and they don't understand that they are punished. Like someone who is mal'oon. Sometimes he doesn't understand that he's punished. And he likes being mal'oon. When someone his heart is made hard,
if I punish and I don't
جَعَلْنَا قُلُوبَهُمْ قَاسِيَةً, sometimes he doesn't find any pain in that. And this is actually part of the punishment. Sometimes the punishment makes you unable to understand that you are punished.
if I you don't suffer from punishment, so what's the result of punishment?
It depends on the type of punishment.
The real punishment is in the resurrection day.
Yes.
Maybe the punishment leads them to the punishment of the hereafter. So this is the punishment for here to being not aware about this world and the position in front of God. So they lead to that.
Or just they believe
So when Allah takes away from you something, maybe you understand, maybe you don't understand. But in both cases, this is a punishment, whether you understand or not. Maybe we already have been punished in many ways and we don't understand.
Well, we suffer from something, lots of things that we don't know. This suffering from the punishment of God, or it's the natural suffering. But then we don't suffer from anything. I can't imagine. I can't understand.
Then it shows that punishment was very severe, that even you don't understand. Because sometimes if you understand, then you may regret. But when the punishment is very severe, then you don't understand, then you don't regret. Yes.
in this case just they're being deprived from humanistic perfection can be considered as punishment.
It's punishment. Yes. No, we don't have about the doubt about being punishment. The thing is, he says whether they like to be again a human being or not.
It's not necessary
Yeah.
for them to understand or not.
Yes.
With respect to the issue of Rajhat, we have also in the narration that some Kuffar also they're coming back to the world. According to the principle of philosophy, there should be a kind of also perfection for them, improvement for them. According to the principle of philosophy, we believe that this Kuffar, after returning back to the world, they have a kind of perfection and improvement here.
Why perfection?
So according to this, they have a change of life. The next level of life should have a kind of improvement with respect to the last level of life. Return back to the world, and according to Allah, is not a kind of returning back in the level of life. So it should be kind of improvement here also. I think
For the bad people, there is no improvement. For the good people, can be improvement, but not why for the bad people there is improvement.
But according to this principle, when you are continuing in different level of life, you are continuing your living, it should be a kind of change in every different kind of living. And this change should be a kind of improvement because you cannot go back to the...
Or you can stay as you are.
So,
This doesn't say that you have to improve all the time. It says you shouldn't go backward.
So we mean we can have the same level of life in different here and in hereafter. It's not necessary for us to have improvement in hereafter.
To go backward. You don't go backward, but you can become better, you can remain the same, or you can go into a new form which is from some aspects worse. But it's not the same thing that you used to be when you were potential.
So it's not necessary to have a perfection. It's just that it's impossible
Yes.
to turn back in the perfection.
Yes.
Sorry, what about the things or as you said, the aspects that are not changing or are not changing to the less level? What about those aspects? The principle that you referred to.
So that Allama refers to that for those who go back to the life also, he says they are not going back to the state that they used to be, for example, before becoming a human being. Or if we go further, for example, imagine someone who was living 40 years, 50 years, then he dies. If his soul departs body, that soul never goes back to the state of, for example, an embryo or a child. The soul goes through different phases of progress, And that soul never goes back to what it used to be. It's just a matter of separation from body, that can be separated from body and go back to body. But never soul goes back to what it used to be. So in a sense, we don't have a complete return, in the sense that we can go back to the time when the soul was not created, for example, or the early stage of the creation of the soul. Soul goes through different stages. It can come back to this world, but again, it doesn't change the history, the life of the soul. The soul has gone through all these experiences.
Sorry, I didn't get the answer.
Yes.
About the master, how does Allama justify this?
So this monkey is a human monkey.
Okay, what about the faculties and what the actualities that the monkey has, and which is less than the actualities that a person has? What would you,
No problem. The soul has not gone backward.
but some actualities of the soul is limited now. As you know, the soul is limited to is bound to the body. Okay, so if the body is a human being's body
No, the soul is the same, but just because body is a kind of instrument for the soul. So when the soul is with body, can do something. When soul loses body, cannot do those things. And if the body changes, again, the soul's actions may change. But the soul's substance is immaterial.
Okay, so you can say that the actuality is return to potentiality again.
No.
They have not the instrument to be actualized.
That is outside their essence. The essence is immaterial. Essence of the soul is immaterial.
Okay, but the potentiality is there.
No. It's a matter of whether the instrument is available or not. If I have a car or I don't have a car, my essence is the same. Maybe I have a car which is very good, then I lose car, or I have a car which is very bad. My essence has not changed. You cannot say you have gone backward. It's just change of something external.
What the stick and cane of Hazrat Musa, this cane actually had changed to a huge snake and then returned back to the same cane. So it's not a return to the same potentiality.
I will speak about my view later, but if we want to say it according to Allama, so the soul of that snake doesn't disappear. So the body of the snake again becomes a stick, but the soul is there.
The soul of
The soul of a snake. Because soul is immaterial. So every time that this was becoming a snake, the soul is remaining.
but we have this return.
So now,
potential.
now maybe we are able to find that snake somewhere in the world, in the world of the spirits. The snake is there. The same with Nagaya Thamud. The soul is there. Yes.
And what about the material world? Because the material also enjoys a kind of existence, and existence the perfection compared to non-existence. So, for example, before hereafter, this world will be destroyed. And what would happen to this existence? According to the principle of philosophy, it cannot be destroyed, and they cannot return back to non-existence.
It doesn't stop existing. It will change. Allah transforms this earth and sky to another earth and sky, but it's not stopping to exist.
So we have to believe that it's impossible.
يوم تبدل الأرض غيرها.
So we have to believe that it's impossible for Allah to deprive any live beings from the life. nothing can die, and Allah, it's impossible for him to bring something to the death, to actual death. Can you say that?
Impossible, not in the sense that he is not able. It means that this is something which is not possible. Not that he is not able.
The essence of things will be changed here. The essence of sky and humanity will be changed here.
Anyway, they remain somehow, but in different forms, different shapes. It's not that they totally become non-existent. There would be transformation. You don't find any verse which says, for example, skies or the stars or the mountains would become non-existent.
Sorry, this potentiality is related to
Yes, those which are immaterial, they don't have potentiality except the soul. Because we have three types of substance here. Of course we have five, but the main three. Aql, which is completely immaterial, is immaterial in essence and action. There is no potentiality. Then we have nafs, which in the essence is immaterial, but it has material aspect in actions.
Hereafter, when the material is stopped, what will happen? Is it possible to
No, even that is not known for sure.
so you improve?
Maybe even in the hereafter there would be some changes.
So
At least we know that those who go to hell, some of them go to heaven. So this is a change.
So there must be sort of material there, huh?
Material, not necessarily physical. Madde is different from physics. Matter means potentiality. So there can be different types of things that have potentiality. Yes.
Revival necessitates the existence of a body that this soul is going to enter that body. No? But so there must be a dead person that, for example, this soul wants to come back to the material world, attach this dead body there. Or because you cannot imagine. Because we say, for example, I'm 50 years old, I die, okay, and after that I want to come back to the world. The body that I'm going to enter must be at least 50 years old, because younger than that it's impossible, but it must be at the same, so I should enter another
Why?
one's body.
Why it is impossible to go to a younger body?
Because it has its own potentiality.
Allah may revive all the people as young people. On the day of judgment, those who go to heaven, they are all young.
Because you said it's impossible to go through the earlier stages.
No, that's different. The soul of an old person can never become a young soul. This is different. But the body, you can give it a young body. Even maybe in dunya you can experience that. Maybe after some time we can get an old person and change different parts of his body into a young body. It's possible.
Anyway, so it should find a body, okay, to enter.
We can find a body, we can create a body. What is your problem?
The problem is that the question is this soul enters the womb of a woman in a, for example, a
The soul never enters the womb.
okay, in the substance of movement being created.
Unless for Saleh Rahim. Yes. Yes.
Created, okay?
Yes.
At that juncture moment that the last surah is given.
So you have to distinguish between stages of the soul and body. These are two different things. The soul goes through different stages, body goes to different stages, and these are in parallel, but they're not the same. So it's possible that soul goes to some advanced levels, but belongs to a body which is a new body. It's not important. Yes.
We have some narrations about the created in Nafay school. I think according to the narration, all things died except Allah. So according to the position we gave it, now it is that nothing dies actually. That nothing can die. So what are the meaning of the narration?
When you say, for example, everything dies, it means everything which has physical life. Not, for example, Jibreel dies.
We have the angels also.
No.
That all angels will be dying.
There might be hadith, but
They are not the same.
intellectually, it's very difficult. So angels will not die. Even the soul would not die. When we say they die, means separation from body. Indeed, the body is dying. The soul never. It's not the soul, stops to exist. Human soul is always living. When it's created, it's always living. Rohaniyatul baqa.
The problem is, as you referred, it's about angels, because as I remember in the narration, referred to the point that angels will die also.
So this makes it, questionable.
Next one.
The authenticity of the
Both. Yes. We cannot easily accept that, for example, angels die. It changes the whole system. I'm not saying it's necessarily wrong, but I'm saying it's questionable. So you cannot just believe in that because of some hadith. Because we have many other Quranic verses and hadiths and philosophical rules at the other side. So many hadiths that human beings are created to remain forever. خلقتم للبقاء بل أحياء عند ربهم. So how can we say they die?
Because they justify die and death as actually progress, For example, what's the meaning of death? Death is a progress for our body to be dead and our soul to be better.
No. But what does it mean? What does it
This is
mean?
the question.
What does it mean that Jibreel dying, or for example, human soul of imams and prophet dying? What does it mean?
It means that
When there is no physical life.
because in every actually world and each world we have some bodies according to philosophy.
Okay.
So this body will be dead.
So
and then
so I
another
said
body.
so I said for body it's possible, but for the soul itself there is no death.
Yes,
Angels, is there a body for angels?
No.
and they prove that.
There are some sort
Yes.
of bodies for angels.
Yes, sure.
There are many problems with this. Yes. But I'm not saying it's wrong. But I'm saying there are many problems, many issues. It's not easy. Yes. Okay, so vegetative soul substance can become animal substance, or animal substance can become human substance. And then Allama says that this إذا عرفت ما ذكرناه, this is the conclusion, ظهر لك أننا لو فرضنا إنسانا رجع بعد موته إلى الدنيا. If we suppose that there is a human being that returns to this world after death, وتجدد لنفسه التعلق بالمادة, and again belongs to the material body, لم يبطل بذلك أصل تجرد نفسه. Its immateriality doesn't stop. So it was immaterial before and after, belonging to the body. وهي مع التعلق ثانيا حافظة لتجردها. Before it was material and still it protects or keeps its immateriality. والذي كان لها بالموت. So what happened when it died? أن الأداة, the instrument التي كانت رابطة فعلها بالمادة صارت مفقودة لها. It just had lost the instrument, because human soul for actions need body. So that instrument was lost when it died. Now again back to the belonging to this material body, so it has the instrument, but the soul has remained in a sense the same. صارت مفقودة لها فلا تقدر على فعل مادي كالصانع إذا فقد آلات صنعته والأدوات اللازمة لها. A carpenter or a mechanic loses his instruments. Again he finds them. No problem. فإذا عادت النفس إلى تعلقها الفعلي بالمادة أخذت في استعمال قواها وأدواتها البدنية. He starts using them again, but من غير أن يكون ذلك منه رجوعا قهقرا وسيرا نزوليا. Okay? Then Allama says you may make another objection. If all the souls after departure from the body have the ability to go back to their body, and this remains forever, there is a problem that how many souls actually go back to their body? Very little. So this potentiality which exists in all the souls and remains forever is wasted. In other words, there must be a problem here in the nature, because we know when there is something potential, it must become actual either all the time or most of the time, because al-qasru la yakunu da'imiyan aw akthariya. To keep this potentiality always unable to develop, or most of the time, it's not possible, according to the rule that they have, al-qasru la yakunu da'imiyan aw akthariya. So Allama says this potentiality doesn't remain forever. It is there for some time, it doesn't go back, it stops. So he says, قلت هذه النفوس التي خرجت من القوة إلى الفعل في الدنيا, it has reached some level of actuality, واتصلت إلى حد, has reached some level, وماتت عندها, لا تبقى على إمكان الاستكمال اللاحق دائما بل يستقر بعد حين. After some time it's fixed. The potentiality doesn't remain.
It's against the rule itself, because they use kind of future for the soul. They had the future to be more perfect, and according to this argument, they lost it after a period of time. So it's against the argument itself, because they had to having this kind of perfection forever, because it's a kind of
We don't have any rule which says that you have to reach the end.
because they had this potentiality and possibility to be more perfect. So it's a kind of positive future for them. And according to Allama, they lost it after a period of time. So it's the same soul, just it's lost a good and positive future. So it's a kind of returning back. It's a kind of returning back.
It's not returning back. Why it's returning back?
Because it's the same soul, the same life. It has the future which wants the potentiality to be more perfect.
We don't
It
have
lost it.
No, we don't need that you reach all the levels of potentiality.
No, I don't think that. But just having this possibility to be more perfect, this is a good future.
Okay.
So, and you have it now. After a period, according to Adam, you lose it.
Yeah. When there is no need for it.
But it means that you lost a good future without gaining anything. It's kind of returning back in the
Because
stage of life.
you had to gain perfection in dunya. When someone dies, it is still possible to go back to dunya and continue the journey. Because in dunya you can become better. Okay? So, for example, if Allah gives you second life, you can come back to dunya and work more and try to be a better person. This potentiality for going back to dunya and becoming better is not remaining in barzakh forever, because there is no use. So after some time, then this potentiality stops. But you say it goes backward. I don't understand why you say it goes backward. Yeah.
I mean, this soul has a stage of life here. So, and here we claim that it has a future which is possible to be more perfect, the potentiality.
Yeah.
So, after a period of time, which is death, the soul doesn't have any change. But it used a kind of future for it, which was the possibility to be more perfect. So it's a kind of change for the soul. And according to the level of life, I think it's a...
when you lose potentiality, it's not a change.
It's a good future for you. It's a positive future for you.
It doesn't have it, so that you can say it lost it.
Having potentiality compared to existence, one has the potentiality to be more perfect and the other doesn't have it. Can you say they are equal completely?
Not completely, but it's not a matter of losing the perfection that it has. It just doesn't have the chance for having more. When you don't have a chance for having more, it doesn't mean that you have changed. Your actuality is there.
But you don't have that positive future.
For example, if I have a house that I can build one floor on it, and then they tell me that you cannot build another floor on it, has my house changed?
No, but between two houses, which is one of them...
The house is the same house.
But between two houses, which one of them has the possibility to build another floor on it, and the other
Yes,
doesn't have
but
it.
the house is the same house.
Yes, but it's the better one. Has more perfection.
No, it's not better.
The possibility to be more perfect.
It's not better. It's the same thing, but as far as actuality is concerned. One of them had the chance of becoming better. The other doesn't. But they are the same level of perfection. Yeah. So Allama says, Al-insanu alladhi mata wallahu nafsun sazajah. The person who dies and has yet a simple, not very advanced soul. He means that he has done some good actions and bad actions, but his soul has not become good or bad. Because before he mentions this, sometimes the soul, because of good actions, become good. It becomes established or it becomes bad. But غير أنه فعل أفعالا وخلط عملا صالحا وآخر سيئا. He has done good actions, bad actions. لو عاش حينا, if he lives, أمكن أن يكتسب على نفسه الساذجة صورة سعيدة أو شقية. If he keeps living like this, then that actions can establish a permanent quality or in a kind of form of good or bad. وكذا لو عاد بعد الموت إلى الدنيا وعاش. If he dies and then goes back to dunya, Allah gives him second life, he can continue doing some good actions or bad actions. So he can takes a new form. وَإِذَا لَمْ يَعُدْ, if he doesn't return, فَهُوَ فِي الْبَرْزَخْ مُثَابٌ أو مُعَذَّبٌ, he would be rewarded or punished بِمَا كَسَبَتْهُ مِنَ الْأَفْعَالِ, because of the actions. And this continues حتى يتصور بصورة عقلية مناسبة لصورته السابقة المثالية, till barzakh finishes and this becomes an intellectual form. وعند ذلك يبطل الإمكان المذكور, then that potentiality of becoming better or worse finishes. ويبغى إمكانات الاستكمالات العقلية, of course then for the intellectual souls there is some potentialities relevant to them. فإن عاد إلى الدنيا كالأنبياء والأولياء لو عادوا إلى الدنيا بعد موتهم أمكن أن يحصل صورة أو يحصل صورة أخرى عقلية من ناحية المادة. If it becomes intellectual like Anbiya, like the prophets, then can have more intellectual forms in dunya. ولو لم يعد فليس له إلا ما كسب من الكمال والصعود في مدارجه. Then the only thing he can continue is to continue with the progress of what he has achieved in dunya. So in akhirah, or in the period between this and hereafter, you can grow in what you have achieved, but you cannot have something that is totally not achieved by you. Okay? So if you haven't developed certain qualities, you will not achieve them. But if you are in the process, maybe you can achieve them. So for example, if someone was in the process of learning, maybe he becomes alim. But if someone, for example, was not learning at all, or was not, for example, generous at all, you know, some of the qualities that you didn't have at all, then you would not develop them in barzakh. ومن المعلوم أن هذا ليس قصرا دائما ولو كان مجرد حرمان موجود عن كماله. Allah says this is not one example of having permanent kind of qasr. Why? Why? Because if this is a problem, we have it all the time in dunya. For example, all human beings have potentiality of becoming very, very good. How many people have achieved that potentiality? Maybe even a small minority have not achieved. Maybe only very few. You cannot say even 10% have reached the highest level of perfection. Yeah? So we cannot say all the potential things must become actual, at least as majority of cases. We don't have such a thing. So Allama says this dunya, this world is darut tazahum, is the world of conflicts, mawtanut tazad, there is always opposition. So they interact, some of them stop others. So we cannot say everything has to reach, or the majority has reached the perfection which is available for that type of being. Then he says, as we said about reincarnation, لو فرضنا إنسانا تغيرت صورته إلى صورة نوع آخر من أنواع الحيوان كالقرد والخنزير فإنما هي صورة على صورة فهو إنسان خنزير. A human monkey or a human pig, إنسان خنزير or إنسان قردة. لا إنسان بطلت إنسانيته وحلت الصورة الخنزيرية أو القردية محلها. خلت is wrong, it's حلت. It's not that it's no longer a human being and the monkey form has replaced it. فالإنسان إذا كسب صورة من صور الملكات تصورت نفسه بها. It takes this form. Okay, then the person says, so according to your view, is tanasukh or reincarnation possible? Allama says no. Because if this soul wants to belong to two bodies, it's not impossible. And if it wants to belong to one body, again it's impossible, not because that body is, for example, a young body, because that soul, according to those who believe in reincarnation, wants to start life from scratch. For example, they say you are living in Estonia for 70 years. You become an old person. Then you start life with new body from the stage of embryo. Then you become a child. Not only the body is child, even the soul is soul of a child. This is not possible. It's not very detailed here, but this is what I understood from what Allama says. Because with the body we don't have problem, but the thing is that the soul itself, to go through all these stages, this is impossible. Okay? Yes.
Does it mean for our infallible imams, in the case of Raja, does it mean that they can achieve some level of perfection by Raja, which they couldn't reach it without Raja? Does it mean that if this is the case, so for example, Imam Zaman had the better chance for perfection because he had, for example, more than 1,000 years, so he would be a more perfect person in the world, even our prophet, because he had more chance for perfection. Does it mean does it mean they would have more perfection here because they can rush and
So what do you say about Imam Zaman before we talk about Raja?
what do you mean?
So that because he has a longer life,
Yes, does it
so
mean, for example,
so he's more perfect.
He has more chance to be perfect in this world. They can just actually the potentiality. And Imam Zaman had the more chance because they had 1,000 years to work on his perfection. Or for example, our prophet had, for example, just 60 years, for example. So it means.
So in that case, Prophet Nuh must be
Yes.
also.
Actually, it's my question. Does it mean say that in this world we can have actual or potentiality, but in the other world we don't have it?
I think we don't compare two people because there are many other factors. You cannot say whoever lived longer is more perfect. Yes, you can say something else. That the same person, if he lives longer, does he become more perfect or not? For example, if a prophet who lived 50 years, if he had lived 100 years, would he become better or not? I think not necessarily. It depends. For those who are in the state of building themselves, purifying themselves, yes, the more life they have, the better they can become. But I believe if you reach the level of mukhlasin, then you don't need to live longer. No. No. Allah will continue for you.
But if you have more life,
no problem. Whether you are alive or not, you develop.
Have hadith saying salawat good for the prophet and family.
So,
can you stop with
All things are developing them. If you don't say salawat, it doesn't make them improve themselves.
yeah. Yeah, for sure it has some impact, but whether it would be the same is another issue. You know, I was thinking about, for example, two students in Jose. Okay? So two people joined the Jose at the same time. One of them, after some years, dies. One of them, after some years, becomes a martyr. And one of them continues and becomes a great alim. What would be the situation? All the three can be considered as great alim. We know for sure that out of 1,000 people, even one hardly can become a great alim. Okay? So you cannot say if they had lived, they would have become a great alim. But on the other hand, they died while they were in the process of learning. So, I think, I'm not 100% sure, I think the one who has given his life to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala while he was in the process of learning, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will complete the job for him. Maybe if he had lived, after some time, he would not be in the same way of thinking. But now that he has left dunya in this condition, it will remain for him and Allah will develop him. Yes. If that is the meaning. Yes. So, Allah will continue for him. The one who just died, if he had the intention of learning and was actually learning, Allah will give him something definitely. But not necessarily making him as a great alim. Because that great alim has gone through 40 years, 50 years, 100 years of struggle. And every day was likely to collapse. It cannot be the same. So he can become an alim. For example, we say if someone remembers 40 hadiths that they benefit in their life, Allah resurrects him as a faqih. But what about a faqih? So then Allah resurrects him as a'lam, perhaps. Because if 40 hadiths is enough to become faqih, so someone who has spent all his life on learning and passing on the knowledge to people would sure be higher. So this person who had the intention and was involved in learning, Allah will help him, but up to a certain extent. Because there are many tests that he hasn't been gone through. But for martyr, I think it's different. For a martyr, he is giving everything he has to Allah. And if Allah accepts, this is very important. You cannot impose your martyrdom on Allah. Because some people, I think they are not really martyrs. We call them martyrs. If someone is really a martyr, in the sense that Allah has purchased him, okay? Because sometimes, by chance I am passing somewhere and one bullet comes, it's not. But someone who is really من الناس من يشري نفسه ابتغاء مرضات الله. If someone really sells himself to Allah, this is important. And this person, even if he doesn't get martyr, if he remains in this condition, it doesn't change that much. If he remains. Because Allah said this about Imam Ali when he didn't actually become martyr. من الناس من يشري نفسه ابتغاء مرضات الله. Yeah? What is important is that you are doing this deal with Allah. Whether he gets it or not, it's another issue. So for this type of people who have given their life to Allah, Allah will manage everything for them in the best way. Like for example, I am a person who has some money, some capital. I come to you and say, could you please do some business with my capital? Okay? And you accept. When you accept, you do business better than I could do. If my life was under me, I couldn't have done when it is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes.
For the one who reached the level of mukhlasini, they continue the process of perfection, and there is no difference between being alive or being
No.
dead.
Yes.
Do you believe that, for example, according to Mrs. that all objects of this world have their own soul? We can believe in this argument of Allah
How?
Because, for example, when you say that this cane has changed to the snake, so this snake has a soul, then return to the same cane, and this cane has soul. So it's returned to the same potentiality.
Just the body of the snake.
The soul, because it's the soul of this snake.
Soul remains soul. The body again becomes wood.
So the soul is again the soul.
The soul is there. The soul is as a soul.
So it is a returning of.
So we have
soul
two
to the
things.
same potentiality.
So a stick, when you have a stick, you have one thing. This stick develops, and according to substantial motion, then becomes two things. Body of a snake and the soul of a snake.
Yes.
Then the body becomes again wood, but the soul remains.
No, we have.
Pardon?
The wood has soul.
Considering the fact that the wood has soul, so has
No problem. Even if we accept that, even if we accept, we don't accept. But if we accept, that soul is different from the soul of a snake. That soul of wood is different from soul of a snake.
possible for the body to
Yes,
have two souls.
yes, it's possible.
Body have two souls.
Yes.
One body, one material body have two souls.
Yeah, you can have different souls. But what is the relation between them? Mullah Sadra says, النفس في وحدتها كل القوى. But those who believe that everything has a soul cannot say this. Because if you say that the water which is in your body has a soul, the sugar which is in your body has a soul, then you have to accept there are many souls. So that depends on your basis, on your foundation. I don't believe everything has a soul.
So how we can justify, for example, the narrations, some objects like stones and rocks, and some others,
I think once we talk about this, that is another perspective. We didn't talk about that.
No.
That's the first thing, yes, because
Inshallah, once we have, I don't think that is from the same perspective. We cannot say this wood as a wood from this material perspective has life. I believe it's another perspective. It's not from the way they appear to us. It is from the way they face God. They're two different things.
So
For example, the Masali, for example, aspect. I mean.
Or Malakuti aspect.
and in that aspect, it is saying it has to be for
Yes. Okay. Another thing is that, yes.
Did you answer to your question, the question that you yourself raised, how come all the souls never not come back to the bodies? You know, you explained how their potentiality perish after a while, but you didn't explain why. For example, when if it is possible, there must be money to not to let them to come back again to the world. I didn't get the answer.
So Allama says that potentiality stops after some time, and before that it's not necessary that every potentiality becomes actual, because this world is the world of conflicts and interaction. So many things, for example, how many billions of seeds can be there which are never growing? Imagine we produce wheat, yeah, but how many percentage of the wheat that we produce we use them again for growing wheat?
There are other potentialities to be actualized.
But the main potentiality for wheat is to become again another plant. Or how many sperms in a human being, in a man, is wasted? I think there are millions in every drop.
Maybe they are not wasted, they are doing some other things.
No.
They are somewhere.
So there is no way to say that everything which is potential or has to become actual or the majority.
No, it's not a matter of the material, it's a matter of the immaterial life.
No, because this was for the body. This potentiality is after belonging to the body and the material life.
According to the substantial motion, they should have this change of potentiality to actuality.
Not always towards better,
Really? What? Worse?
because sometimes can go towards worse.
Worse? Not
I
better.
personally am not convinced. Maybe I am not right, but I am not convinced about this principle in its generality. I believe many times those which are actual become potential, and potential become actual. You have to define what type of actuality. You know, for example, you can have water as liquid. It can become ice. Ice can become again liquid. You can make, for example, from some chemicals. You can make, for example, water from oxygen and hydrogen. Then you can make it back. So you have to define what type of actuality. A person can become, for example, a very good person, then again he becomes a bad person. A person can become very generous, then he becomes miserly. So I don't accept that this is a general rule that something which is actual cannot become potential. You have to define what type of actuality. Things can become perfect, but can also become less perfect. Why we should put ourselves in such condition? For them, they had this idea that everything which is potential has a kind of also a small scale of that potentiality as a being. Imkan istedadi. So imkan istedadi for them was something existential. They had the idea that this exists. It's a quality that exists. But I don't accept that. I don't say that is a quality. We don't accept Hayullah, but this is different.
So you think that the quality that every stage of a being has, and they call it that it will become a better one, to achieve new form. It is not
because if you go back to Nihaya, for example, you see that they argue that because, for example, an embryo which is 6 months old compared to the embryo which is 1 month old is more likely to become a human being, they say, so it must be as existential because there is difference. The potentiality is stronger. And I think it's not existential. I think it's a matter of probability. It's more probable. It's not that there is something existential there in addition to the embryo itself. Okay? If you refer back to that discussion about Imkan Istidadi,
They don't say it's something in addition to
they say it's, when they say it is by itself kind of existential, means it's addition.
They have one kind of istidad which is the same thing. This is the potential for the next form, and the next form, when it is attached to this, is the potential for the other form to come. This is one. And
This is Quvvah.
yes.
But Imkan Istidadi is different.
When they talk about unconscious study, as far as I remember, I know, it You know, they say Quvve is the what's so difficult in English?
Indeterminate. No, that's different. Quvve.
I know, but that's why I told you you don't believe in Hayullah or you believe in. Because I think in Istidadi has a very strong relationship with this meaning of Istidad.
No, we are not talking about the first matter. That first matter is different. When, for example, we talk about, for example, a seed has the potentiality of becoming a flower. Okay, so there is quvve, it's potential. But many philosophers, like Allama, they argue that in addition to the potentiality, there is a quality which is an accident, is araz. And that is something which is not very general. Something which is specific for that particular form that it can have in future. And this gradually becomes stronger and stronger. So if we have 5 stages, when you go further, it becomes stronger. And they argue that because it becomes stronger, so it must be existential. So it's a quality. It's a quality. But I think it's not a quality. They have the forms that they have, nothing in addition to that. But just when we see that more and more of the requirements are coming and the chance of reaching the end becomes higher, we say it's more likely. This more likely, it's a matter of probability, not a matter of having something existential. But you go back, read that discussion, and we can, inshallah, then discuss. No, so if you have such understanding, what I wanted to say is this. If you have such understanding that when something is potential, has a small scale of the form that it's going to have in future right now, okay, then when it becomes actual to go back, it's very difficult. Why? Because then that doesn't have the small scale of what is in a lower level. You know, for you, potentiality is a special thing. And you cannot accept something which is actual to have potentiality. But for me, potentiality is having something and you can lose it. It's not always getting a new thing. You can lose what you have. But maybe I'm wrong, you know. Just I wanted to say it's not a very crystal clear principle that all the times everything which is actual cannot become potential again. At least you have to modify it. Yes. This is a rational way to refer to the experts in every field, and this is when you don't have ability to find the answer or the solution for yourself.
What is the relevance of this issue in verse?
So he says that following an expert is good, but following someone who has no knowledge is not good. Or questioning referring to alim is also not good. So if someone says, I don't want to follow a person who has knowledge, because as I said, they were questioning referring to the prophets or, for example, good scholars. They say we want to be free, but they easily follow things which have no authority. So this is something general, and Allama wants to use that. So he says, ملاك الأمر كله or كله إن الإنسان لا يركن إلى غير العلم. We only should rely on knowledge. Either the knowledge that we acquire ourselves or the knowledge that someone else has, because we cannot get knowledge for everything that we need. It's impossible. Then he says, there are also issues that maybe, for example, it's possible for us to achieve knowledge about it, but it's a matter of also practicality of the life. Maybe, for example, everyone can become a religious scholar, or most of people, but we cannot expect everyone to become a religious scholar, because sometimes people don't have access to schools or teachers, or they don't have, livelihood, they have to work. So there are many other issues. So what is important is that we should base our life on knowledge, either the knowledge that we have ourselves or the knowledge that some people have and we refer and benefit from them. So we finished up to verse 74. So inshallah we should start from 75. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.